As mentioned in previous episodes, when the camera of Lisanne Froon was recovered, it was found that she and Kris Kremers had made 100 pictures in the very early morning of April 8, 2014, 1 week after their disappearance. These pictures show that they are halfway up a steep slope in a narrow canyon, surrounded by dense forest. To the left, we see a steep slope covered with ferns, which indicates we are close to water. To the right, we see another steep slope with dense vegetation, consisting mostly of cecropia. Looking down to the right, we see a boulder field which resembles the stream bed of a narrow stream. Turning further to the right, and taken from a slightly different position, we can see the large flat stone with the markers. The fact that there is no moss visible on this stone indicates it must be frequently covered by fast-flowing water. Below this stone, we see what appears to be either wet mud or a thin stream of flowing water. When we turn to the left shore again, we see more boulders. In another series, which is taken from a position somewhat more back, we see another portion of the stone with the marker, this time showing what appears to be letters made from paper, as well as one of the straps of the camera bag, and a signaling mirror made from the bottom of a Pringles can. If we look further up and more to the left, we see lots of ferns and distant trees. Under this angle, it is clear how steep the slope is, going down into the canyon at about a 30-degree angle. The fact that we see small leaves lying on the stone indicates clearly that we are looking at a large boulder and not at an overhanging cliff face. However, the boulder is partly covered by mud and overgrown by vegetation. The thin layer of moss on this stone indicates water levels seldom reach this high, and unlike the stone with the signals, this boulder is seldom fully covered by flowing water. As explained in another episode, we were able to recreate a model of this place in a 3D editor. This model evolved through a long series of different phases, as the characteristics of this place slowly became clear. In its present version, the model produces accurate copies of all of the night pictures, showing us what this place would look like during daylight. So, where is this place? Using a virtual drone, we can fly over this same 3D model, which gives a clear impression on how small the place actually is and how hard it will be to find it. The opening between the trees is about 3 meters wide and will only be visible if the drone is right above it. The stone with the markers is right on the edge of a fast-flowing narrow stream which runs down into the canyon. Most of the other boulders are further away from the stream and only occasionally covered by water. It might be that what we are seeing is part of a stepped waterfall. Further downhill, the steepness of the slope increases to almost 40 degrees, just before the stream joins a wider stream, which might be part of the main river. All around the location, we see steep slopes rising up, which would make it very hard or impossible for the girls to leave this place. The forked tree is very prominent in the night pictures, but it might be very hard to spot from any other angle. Apart from the fact that it is very small, the most prominent feature of this place is the steep slope and the narrow canyon. Steep slopes and canyons like this we usually find at places where some narrow stream joins one of the major rivers. Given that the remains of the girls and their belongings were found far downstream on the banks of the river, it is indeed likely that the night location is close to a river and subject to frequent floodings during the rainy season. A place like this should be visible on drone footage if we scan the shores of the major rivers. Another important indication is the fact that the shore with the forked tree appears to be significantly higher than the other shore, making it most likely that the river flows from the right to the left, as seen from the night location. Establishing the direction of the flow in the main river is very important, as it shows us which shore we are on. If our flow direction is correct, the night location must be on the northern shore of either the first stream or the Culebra main river, or the western shore of Rio Mame. If the girls were on the northern shore of the first stream, then the direction they were pointing their camera at should correspond to the direction of the Mirador and the main ridge, confirming some earlier suspicion that they may have seen the distant lights of Bouquet reflected against clouds above the ridge. When we closely study the vegetation as visible in the night pictures, we can identify Cecropia, as well as Bromelia, and various types of ferns. The forked tree might possibly be Heliocarpus, which is known to grow on the edge of steep cliffs. Especially the Cecropia tree is important, as it grows only in a very confined altitude range, The fruits of the cecropia, which are most abundant in March and April, are edible and could have sustained the girls for some time, but there is no indication they were able to harvest them. The vegetation we see in the night pictures clearly points to an altitude between 1,100 and 1,500 meters, which puts another clear confine on our search area. The location cannot be on the northern shore of the Culebra River, leaving only the northern shore of the first stream or a small part of the western shore of Rio Mamey. This fits with the report from the Dutch expedition, which mentions the vegetation in this area closely matches with that seen in the night pictures, while it also agrees with our earlier observation that the girls most likely did not travel more than 2 kilometers from the first stream location where they took their last daylight pictures. However, the Dutch expedition had to turn back at the rapids, which is also the furthest location Romain reached with his drone when he explored the first stream. Could it be that the night location is just beyond the furthest point reached by these previous expeditions? When we planned our own drone expedition, we decided to concentrate on the valley to the east of the trail and the northern slopes of the first stream, especially the area beyond the rapids, which has not been covered by any other expedition. Footage from all of these drone flights can be found on our YouTube channel. If our earlier theory is correct, the girls may have left the trail halfway up the Mirador when they became stranded in darkness during the route back, wandering down the eastern valley before following the first stream and making it partway down the rapids. This would mean that the Dutch expedition of January 2015 came within 100 meters of the final resting place of Kris and Lisanne before turning back. Just before turning back, Romain's first stream drone catches a glimpse of a narrow canyon on the northern shore, halfway down the rapids, which strongly resembles our 3D model. However, the drone remains too far away for any clear identification. If the girls traveled down the easterly valley, they must have reached the first stream somewhere in this area. But if they planned to walk upstream back to the trail crossing, they would find their route blocked by a 10-meter-high waterfall and steep cliffs. The only option to make any progress would be to head downhill, following the stream in the hope it would lead them back to civilization. This is where the Dutch team had to turn back, a fault line where the terrain drops down steeply in a series of waterfalls and rapids. However, the team of Frank van der Goot was here when water levels were high, causing a very strong current, while in April 2014 the water levels were extremely low, possibly allowing Kris and Lisanne to find a way down. If the girls somehow managed to find a route at least partly down these rapids, they would become trapped, as climbing back up would almost certainly be impossible, quite apart from the big risk that either of them may have become badly injured during this attempt. Struggling at the edge of its range, Romain's drone attempts to take a look at the area past the rapids. Could this be the final resting place of Kris and Lisanne? Halfway down the rapids, on the northern shore, there is a narrow canyon which strongly resembles our 3D model. However, the view from the drone is too oblique and too distant to get any clear details. If the girls ended somewhere upstream of the rapids, surely some of their remains would have been found by the Dutch team. But the area immediately beyond the rapids has never been searched by any team. Our drone 397 is the first to catch sight of the rapids and our possible location, and this footage also shows there is what appears to be an access route, bypassing the rapids and leading straight to our location. Looking down on the location, we do not see water, but this footage was taken in April 2023, when water levels were very low. And if there is water flowing down, it might be hidden under the vegetation. When the drone turns around for a second pass over this spot, we catch sight of several large boulders in a familiar pattern. While there is no longer any doubt that this canyon is indeed going steeply down towards the main stream, exactly as it does in our 3D model. A closer study of the footage from drone 397 shows a very familiar pattern, with boulders exactly at the position where our model predicts them to be. Is this truly the night location? All we can say at this moment is that there is a strong resemblance, but we would need a much more detailed study to be certain. Drone 401 is the next flight which catches sight of the possible location. As this view is from a different angle, it is harder to discern the various stones. However, drone 401 gives a much clearer view of the forked tree, which is shown on the edge of a steep cliff, right where the 3D model predicts it to be. Could two inexperienced girls have managed to find a route down the eastern valley and halfway past the rapids? It is hard to believe, but they had 1 week to cover a distance of less than 2 kilometers, giving them a lot of time to overcome all obstacles. Beyond the rapids, the stream straightens out, finally reaching the open paddocks in the east before merging with Rio Mame and the main Culebra River, where the backpack and some of the remains of the girls were found. Along the river, it is 4 kilometers from the possible night location to the second cable bridge, and 11 kilometers to the location where the backpack was found. With an average current speed of 20 kilometers per hour, this still means the backpack would have to drift in the water for less than an hour to reach the riverbank where, 10 weeks after the disappearance of the girls, it was found. There is at least one other location along the shore of Rio Mame which bears a strong resemblance with our 3D model. This place was explored by Romain, but at this moment we are still awaiting his footage of the place. The main problem with these more distant locations, however, is that it is very hard to explain how Kris and Lisanne could have reached this place, certainly given the fact that it would have required them to cross at least one open paddock and walk past one farmhouse. All logic seems to indicate that in such a situation the girls would have stopped there, waiting for rescue. Located less than 2 kilometers from the 508 position, the location halfway down the rapids presents a more logical scenario how the girls could have reached this place. However, it is impossible to draw any firm conclusions without much sharper footage. At this moment, we are looking into the options to send out another expedition to document the possible route the two girls may have taken and to get better footage of the possible night location. Crowdfunding for such an expedition will start later this year, with all information and all results of the expedition becoming available on this channel. It should be noted, however, that any expedition we undertake will tread the possible night location with great respect as befits a possible grave. We will document the place without causing any disturbance, allowing the girls to rest in peace.